Ladies and gentlemen, there will always be a lost generation, youth that will never succeed in the labor market. That's what we've been told 10 years ago by a labor market expert. And actually, statistics appear to prove him right. Even in the most flourishing economies and countries, you will find a significant group of young people that basically dropped out of everything the welfare state has to offer, that can't be reached by preventive programs. A group that is then labeled unplaceable. And this is actually what we, a team of the Boston Consulting Group and the BMW Foundation, back then refused to accept. And that was why we decided to found Joblinger. It's basically a social franchise fighting youth unemployment in Germany. And I think back then we had a lot of ideas and enthusiasm, but no evidence. We do have today, and I can tell you we should not accept the notion of a lost generation, and we don't have to. So let me explain why I think we have sometimes at least to contradict the experts. I want first to walk you quickly through the case for action, because some of you might wonder what we are fighting against in Germany with record low unemployment levels. And then I want to share some of our impact and, most importantly, the approach with, I think, specific focus on a topic that is very important also for RADARSERES, which is collaboration. So the case for action for our target group is actually talking about whom are we working with? Who is not getting access to the labor market if we have a flourishing economy? So I want very shortly to share a story of one of our first participants. Let's call him Marco. So Marco was 18 when he quits his first job, an apprentice. That was when his father was sentenced to jail, and his mother was moving in with her new partner. Marco lost orientation, and as time goes by, hurdles build up. So 6 years later, disoriented, discouraged, and sorted out just from the paperwork, that's when we met Marco. And what happens then, he actually summarized himself: with Joblinger and the support of my new boss, for the first time in my life, I learned that I can achieve something, that I'm actually worth something. And Marco told us that we had more trust in him than he did. And now he's having a job, he's earning money, and he told us something that we don't hear often, and I guess you don't either, that he's proud to pay taxes. So I think, just looking at the statistics of our target group, Marco is quite representative. So we are working with young people who are long-term unemployed and the second generation, who have very low school degrees, if at all, and who are, in the majority, have a migration background. In 2016, we broadened our target group in working also with young, low-qualified refugees. So looking at the overall statistics, we do have a mismatch in the labor market, even in Germany. So on the one hand, we have peaking numbers of vacant apprenticeships, and we do have 75% of employers telling us that labor shortage is one of their biggest concerns. And on the other hand, you see 700,000 young people who are excluded from the labor market, and their chances aren't promising either. So just this year, I've been told by the Ministry of Labor in Germany that the placement rate, target placement rate for this target group of 20% would be over-ambitious. And I think here's some good news. Our participants actually, that was too quick, outperform this by far. So we have 77% placement rate and 85% retention rate. And this is only counting placement into the first labor market, paid jobs, where vocational training is provided. So far, we've reached 10,000 young people, and among them, 1,500 refugees. And this would be not thinkable without this amazing support of our partner network. So far, we are working with 2,200 companies, 50 public authorities, and 2,200 volunteers. We are currently present all over Germany with 30 branches, And we have a very dedicated and driven team of 250 full-time employees with Joblinger, who are actually not just providing the classical Joblinger program, but also our new program for refugees, which also includes job-related language training. And it's still developing, because currently the refugees that are sent to us today are much more pre-qualified than those back in 2016. So we are actually merging the two programs, and it works quite well, also to work with mixed groups. So let me talk about the approach. I think it's obvious, if it's about work integration, you need the social sector, the business sector, and the public sector to be involved. And each of the three sectors is actually providing very crucial parts of the solution. And this is how work integration works normally. So why is it not working for our target group? Why are the overall statistics so different than ours? Actually, what we observed when we started is kind of a blame game. So the public sector is actually blaming the business sector of not investing enough in apprenticeship. The business sector is blaming the social sector of not providing enough support and preparation. And the social sector is blaming the public sector of not getting enough funding. In this version of the game, there are no winners. Everybody loses, and I think most dramatically, the youth. So we basically set off to change the rules of this game. And then we did what consultants are supposed to do: market research, interviews, benchmarking. We get engaged with all stakeholders, and I think most importantly, we listened to those we wanted to address, to the youth. And that's how we got a sense of what needs are there to change. And cherishing the 15-minute slots, I won't walk you through the entire program, but I think I can highlight 5 aspects that we detected and will, I think, give a good flavor of the way we work. So concerning the public sector, there was a lot of emphasis over the last years in Germany of standardizing mostly the school-based programs for our target group. But if you think of a young person who basically struggled his entire life with school and has no idea what employers actually expect from him, school is not exactly the perfect answer. He needs practical ways of learning and growing, and also not standardized, but very individual support. The other thing is, especially the employment agencies and job centers normally have ways to force participation to programs like ours, for those who don't. But if you dropped out 3 to 4 times of these programs before, forcing you to attend yet another one does not make success more likely. So we actually turned this upside down and asked the participants to apply for admission in our program in doing 2 days charitable work together with us. And there were many experts who said that will never work, but it does. They actually accept the challenge, and most importantly, it's the first change of perspective. Instead of being helped, they help others. So let's move on to the business sector. We have a great network of partners, and all of them being very sophisticated about recruiting. So they have processes and policies in place how to pick the right candidates for job interviews and for assessment centers, and it's based on paperwork and school degrees. And this way, 100% of our participants get sorted out. If you change this upside down, and I think we heard this before, if you have a chance to make personal contact in the first place, like Generation X is obviously also working on, if they can actually show their talents in practice and show their motivation and then get access to admission, we can coach them to pass the assessment centers, even at BMW. And this way, 77% actually succeed. So there was another point that we detected, and it was a complete lack of job-related role models for our target group. At the same time, there were many companies telling us that they were kind of beyond charity, that were seeking impact-related engagement models, where basically their staff can do things that really connect them to their mission. And that were perfect fit to our plan to provide one-on-one mentoring for each of our participants. So what happens today, our partnering companies are sending us their employees as volunteers. We train them, and we support them throughout the 6 months program. And actually, it's not only the youth that benefit, also the partnering companies started to integrate this into their HR development programs because they feel our forthcoming leadership team learns feedback, motivation, target setting, listening skills. So it's a win-win. And then, the last point I want to highlight, on the social sector, we've been talking to a lot of educational programs, and what occurred to us that some of them basically distrust the business sector, maybe even capitalism altogether. So the team members were not really intrigued by the idea of reaching out to representatives of this sector, which basically means letting the youth on their own if it comes to job application. And needless to say, we turned this upside down, so we are working very closely together with our partners. They invest in providing on-the-job training to our participants, and we need to make sure that this investment pays off in supporting them. So, we did this idea of cross-sectional collaboration actually was integrated into the 4 pillars of our program right from the beginning. And just mentioning 5 aspects where we were convinced we need to turn things upside down, and that were fixed in quite rigid policies and sometimes even legislation if it comes to the public authorities. We really thought about how to set this up organizationally, to have this collaboration, and at the same time an invitation to dare something new, to basically push the boundaries of your current system. So I believe you really need a joint vision and objectives. You need tangible and measurable success and social impact, but you also need benefits for all these partners that you want to engage. So what we came up with is we are pushing this idea quite far in founding at the local level the legal entities together with our partners. So it's a not-for-profit stock company that we've chosen, with the idea being that of participation, so engaged partners who want to get ownership can buy stocks, and the idea being that of the highest standards in terms of impact measurement and transparency. And as you might see here in our board, we do not only have representatives of the boards of the local business, but also mayors, managers of the job centers, but also institutions we partner with, like cultural institutions and even Bundesliga soccer clubs. So the idea of institutionalizing collaboration this way worked amazingly well. All these partners together are really driven to make the Joblinge GAG a success. They're celebrating the success with their kids, but they are also ready to step in if needed and if we need troubleshooting. I think with partners that actually benefit, you have an amazing engine of growth because they are actually willing to share their networks and open it up for them. And I think that really works. So for the business sector, they get prepared and loyal recruits from us. They get an HR development tool with the mentoring and a very substantial return on social investment. For the public sector, you get program innovation and something that is really important to them, access to the employer network in a way they never had before, and then a very solid business case in terms of public saving. And this logic holds true for the entire network. So this way, we were able to grow our partner network, and I hope that there will be many more to come. Well, let me summarize. I truly believe we should not accept things that aren't acceptable, like youth without a professional future. And we should not accept barriers, especially not if we build them. I think we can fix it as long as we dare to innovate and to set up new ways of collaboration. Then we can certainly avoid that there's a lost generation. Thank you.